My babies, where are they? You took them, didn't you, Mother? I can't even go to the restroom without you trying something.
Marilyn, take it easy. The matron came and took the girls to the waiting room. They're fine.
Are you sure?
Yes. Now, come sit down. They'll be back after the hearing. Take a deep breath, blow it out slowly, and remember you are in control of your life.
Hardly.
Dorothy, don't.
I am not the problem, Mother. You are the problem. You made me sick, but you won't make my daughter sick. I swear to God you won't.
I'm Judge Robert J. Franklin. I chose the law as my way of serving my fellow citizens. As an elected judge in the family court, I pray each day that God will give me the wisdom to always temper justice with mercy.
What you're about to see is a dramatization of an actual case in family court. Because of the emotional and sensitive nature of the issues presented here, Judge Franklin's courtroom is closed to the public. The proceedings are about to begin.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Robert J. Franklin presiding. Raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Be seated, please. All right, Miss Page.
Your Honor, Marilyn Archer petitions to have her two children, Whitney, age 6, and Heather, age 5, made temporary wards of the court. Opposing the petition are Mrs. Archer's parents, Owen and Dorothy Flynn, who have counterfiled for custody of their grandchildren.
All right, thank you, Miss Page. I'm ready for opening statements, Mr. Hall.
Your Honor, for Marilyn Archer to come here today is an extraordinary act of courage. She is suffering a temporary emotional breakdown, and she does not want her children to suffer while she pulls her life together. The trauma that Marilyn is trying to come to terms with is her mother's alcoholism. Therefore, it is imperative that her parents not gain custody of her children. To protect her two little girls, Marilyn pleads that they become wards of the court until such time as she can regain their custody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Ms. Del Vecchio?
Your Honor, Marilyn Archer is indeed suffering an emotional breakdown, and her wild accusations against her loving, devoted mother are a good indication of just how far she is from mental health. Dorothy Flynn is not, and never has been, an alcoholic, but she has become a convenient scapegoat so that her daughter can disclaim responsibility for her own problems. Still, Mr. and Mrs. Flynn have not abandoned their daughter, and they certainly do not intend to abandon their grandchildren during Miss Archer's crisis. The Flynns have a safe, loving, stable home environment, and they're eager to share it with their precious grandchildren.
All right, thank you, Ms. Del Vecchio. Mr. Hall, your first witness, please.
Your Honor, I call Marilyn Archer.
Very well, sir. Let me remind you, Ms. Archer, that you were sworn in as this hearing began, and now you're about to testify under oath. You do understand that? Good. All right, Counselor, go ahead.
Marilyn, why do you want your children to become wards of the court?
No, this is just temporary.
Yes, of course, temporary wards. Why do you want this?
I want to protect them from me. I'm having some problems.
What sort of problems, Marilyn?
Stuff from my past life is bothering me. I can't seem to make contact with what's going on around me.
And your children don't understand what's happening to you?
No. Sometimes I can't get out of bed in the morning. I can't get them off to school. I can't answer them when they talk to me, and they see their mother crying and they don't know what to do. And when I look at them, I think of myself as a little girl feeling responsible for my mother's sadness. I won't put them through that kind of pain. I'm going to get well, I'm going to get my children back, and I'm going to love them right.
Now, Marilyn, I need you to tell the court about the nature of some of these things in your past that are still bothering you.
I'm the child of an alcoholic.
Move to strike. This is an unfounded accusation. Mrs. Flynn maintains she was not and is not an alcoholic.
Brilliant, Mother. Why don't you just have an x-ray of your liver taken and show them that?
Marilyn, please. Your Honor, Mrs. Flynn's alleged alcoholism is at the heart of the matter here. Now, since Mrs. Flynn has refused to take any test that would refute this, Ms. Archer's experiences should be allowed.
All right, Counselor. Motion denied.
Thank you, Your Honor. Marilyn, how did your mother's lifestyle affect you growing up?
It was horrible. I remember year after year of happy hour lasting all day long. And then at dinner, she'd fall dead asleep. And my father would try to hide it. He'd say, nothing's wrong, eat your dinner, kids.
And how did that affect you?
It was crazy making. Mom was never Mom. She was this other person, and she'd ignore us, and then she'd yell at us for no reason, and then she'd ignore us again. And that went on day after day, forever. But when you're young, you think they're grown-ups, so that must be right. And then you think it must be my fault. But it wasn't my fault. It wasn't.
All right, now, Marilyn, while you're getting help for your emotional problems, why not leave the children with their father?
Who, Ted? He disappeared about 2 years ago. He can stay gone as far as I'm concerned. He was an alcoholic, too. He was, really. They say sometimes that children of alcoholics often marry alcoholics. Well, they're right.
Do you have any relatives other than your parents who might be willing to help while you're in treatment?
Yes, my Uncle Jerry and his wife, they said they'd help, and then Daddy called and told them to butt out. Daddy fixed everything as usual.
But you do have a brother, Robert, who's 2 years older than you are. Couldn't he take care of your children?
Bobby can't even take care of himself. He's been in and out of hospitals for 12 years trying to kick a cocaine habit. That's how my brother, Bobby, came out of the family as a drug abuser. And there was no problem in our home, right, Daddy?
Thank you, Marilyn. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, Counselor. Ms. Archer, may I ask you a question? Your objections to your family's petition, your mother and father's petition for temporary custody, seems to be based solely on events that supposedly occurred some 10 to 20 years ago. Do you have any evidence now that your mother's alleged drinking problem still exists?
Just look in her purse. She carries this little silver hip flask. She always used to call it Mommy's medicine. It's before noon. There's probably still something in it. Just look in her purse.
Your Honor, are we suddenly calling Mrs. Flynn's private property into evidence here?
It's all right. I have nothing to hide. There, look through it. Empty it out.
Marilyn, are you sure
Give
that
it to me. It's always there. I'll show you. Just... It's always here. But it's true. It's always here. Oh, God.
Ms. Delvecchio, do you wish to cross-examine?
Just one or two questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Marilyn, you say you're going through a nervous breakdown. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, I think that we can all see that. Marilyn, your husband has abandoned you. You feel, what, inadequate? Incapable of coping?
Because of her. Because of them.
Marilyn, aren't you just denying responsibility for your own problems?
I don't... No. I'm doing this for my kids.
You want them to go and live with strangers while Mommy disappears for weeks or months or however long it takes? Marilyn, when your husband left you, who supported you? Who sent you money every week to make sure you'd be all right? Who looked after you when you were in trouble, Marilyn?
All right, they sent me money. Is that what you want to hear? Daddy's very good at that. He's very good at papering things over. All right? Just leave me alone. Leave me the hell alone.
No further questions, Your Honor.
It's all right, Ms. Archer. You may step down now. Thank you very much. Any further witnesses, Mr. Hall?
Your Honor, I call Kathy Sperry to the stand.
Very well, sir. Ms. Sperry, let me remind you as well that you were sworn in as this hearing began, and now you're about to testify under oath. Very well. Go ahead, counsel.
Miss Sperry, would you please tell the court your profession?
I'm a licensed therapist working for an organization called Survivors, Children of Alcoholics.
And how did you meet Marilyn Archer?
Marilyn heard me on a local radio talk show, and apparently what I said clicked for her. She came by the office, and we took her into our organization immediately.
So you say that Marilyn recognized herself in what you were saying. Is there some typical pattern of behavior involved here?
Yes, there is. The situation in my family was the same. The anger toward the alcoholic parent builds up, and it turns inward. This is very dangerous because the child loses self-esteem. To try to cope, they often become co-alcoholics.
Now, what is meant by that term, co-alcoholics?
To keep up this shaky peace, they prop up the alcoholic. Marilyn described how her father did it by pretending there was nothing wrong. They buy into the lie and allow the alcoholic to keep living the lie.
And does this behavior continue into adult life?
Yes, usually. But somewhere in their middle to late 20s, all that anger breaks down their coping mechanism. A lot of the time, adult children of alcoholics launch their own careers of alcohol and substance abuse. The brave ones, like Marilyn, seek help for themselves and for their children.
Thank you, Ms. Sperry. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Delvecchio, your witness.
Miss Sperry, when Marilyn came to you, did she say, hello, I'm definitely the adult child of an alcoholic?
Not right at first. It takes time to admit that.
And a little help from you, right?
I helped her see what her problem was.
Or did you convince her that she had the same problems that you had when you were young?
She came to her own conclusions.
But she wouldn't have come to them just all by herself, would she?
We all need help.
What proof do you have that she's telling the truth?
The way she's acting.
Have you met her parents?
No, I haven't.
You haven't? So then you're just assuming that her nervous breakdown is the result of her relationship with them rather than from some other cause?
It's an assumption based on a mass of analogous data.
And with your assumptions and your data, but no hard facts, you come here and you try to send two innocent children into the arms of strangers instead of the loving home of their grandparents?
Those children will be traumatized in that home.
A very strong statement, Miss Sperry. Mm-hmm. But as usual, you have no proof. No further questions.
Very well, Counselor. You may step down, Miss Sperry. Thank you very much. Anything further, Mr. Hall?
Plaintiff rests, Your Honor.
Very well, sir. Ms. Delvecchio, your witnesses, please.
I call Dorothy Flynn to the stand.
Very well. Proceed, Ms. Delvecchio.
Mrs. Flynn, you've heard your daughter describe you as an alcoholic. Is that true?
It's a complete and utter lie. I drink socially, yes. And once or twice I may have ordered a third martini when I should have stopped at 2, but an alcoholic? No. Please make her stop. Somebody stop her.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, but my client is seriously upset.
So I see. Continue, Ms. Delvecchio.
Do you know of any reason why your daughter would make these accusations?
Marilyn's just angry with me. She can't forgive me for being right about Ted, her husband. Now, he is an alcoholic, and I warned her, but she married him anyway. And just look what happened. You should have listened to me, dear. You should have listened.
Thank you, Mrs. Flynn. No further questions.
Very well, Counselor. Your witness, Mr. Hall.
Mrs. Flynn, it must be very difficult for you to come here today.
Yes, but it's necessary.
Yes, it is. Did you have anything to drink before coming to court? You know, a little something to fortify you?
What? That's ridiculous.
Would you like another drink now, Mrs. Flynn?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
Really? Well, you seem a little more agitated than when this hearing began. I thought maybe you could use another shot of vodka, or was your drink scotch?
Objection. Badgering the witness.
Sustained, Mr. Hall. Go ahead.
Mrs. Flynn, do you remember visiting Marilyn and your granddaughters about a month ago for Whitney's birthday party?
Yes, and the girls were very happy to see me.
And didn't you pass out drunk on the couch before dinner?
No. Well, I mean, I had a little dizzy spell. It's a problem I have with my inner ear.
Oh, come on, Mrs. Flynn. Hadn't you been drinking that day? In fact, all that day?
I may have had a glass of wine.
And you passed out? Well, what if you had custody of the children and this happens again?
Owen will be there, too.
Oh, of course. You can always count on good old Owen to back you up, can't you? No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, sir. You may step down, Mrs. Flynn. Thank you very much. Ms. Delvecchio, your next witness, please.
I call Owen Flynn to the stand.
Very well. Mr. Flynn, I would remind you, as well as the others, that you were sworn in as the hearing began, sir. You're now about to testify under oath. That is clear to you, is it not? Good. All right, Counselor, go ahead.
Mr. Flynn, do you have any reason to believe that your wife is an alcoholic?
No, I don't. Dorothy's been a fine mother, and she's the best wife a man can ask for.
You have heard Dorothy described as too drunk to stay awake at dinner or to function as a mother. Is that true?
No. Dorothy had an accident once diving into the swimming pool. She got some water into her inner ear, and her sense of balance hasn't been the same since. Marilyn knows that. Dorothy can't be on her feet for long periods of time or she falls down. For some people, that'd be a real hardship. Not Dorothy. She puts a good face on everything.
How do you feel about your daughter checking into a clinic?
Well, I'm all for it. Anything to get Marilyn back. All we want is to watch over our grandchildren until she's better.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross-examine Mr. Hall.
Mr. Flynn, why wouldn't you let your brother Jerry take care of the children?
I just thought we could do a better job.
Or did you feel that letting him have the children would be admitting that you and your wife have a problem?
I don't have a problem. Neither of us has a problem.
Mr. Flynn, does your wife carry a silver drinking flask in her purse? And remember, you are testifying under oath.
Sometimes.
And did you tell her to leave it at home today?
Well, yes, I did, but only because it might give the wrong impression.
Yes, you've always tried to take real good care of your wife, haven't you, Mr. Flynn?
Of course I have.
But don't you realize that all you've really done is you've helped her live her lie by being her co-alcoholic?
Oh, that's rubbish.
Mr. Flynn, what about your daughter? Do you love her?
Yes.
Well, then look at her. Look at what she's become and ask yourself if you really don't know the reason why. Ask yourself if this is not the result of 30 years of your neglect. And then you ask yourself if you want your granddaughters to end up like her.
Next time on The Judge, a young girl seeks freedom from her father and his strict religious sect.
Father, please, I pray thee, understand. I must leave.
Judge Franklin must decide if she's falling to temptation.
The truth is, you're in love with Jeremy Ashley, and you're running away to be with him, right?
No.
Or if she's ready to tackle the outside world.
This is a rather unusual case. I think it requires some patience.
Next time on The Judge.
Do you have any more questions, Mr. Hall?
Just one, Your Honor. Mr. Flynn, you could deny that your wife needs help, but it's pretty obvious that Marilyn needs and wants help. Now, I know you've always been there to support Mrs. Flynn over all the years, but you need to make a decision now. Is your wife's pride really more important than your own daughter's life?
No. I'm sorry, Dorothy, but Marilyn's having a nervous breakdown, and if she doesn't trust us, she wouldn't have a moment's peace while we have the children. What I'm trying to say, Marilyn, is Jerry would still be glad to help if that's all right with you.
What are you doing, Owen? You're giving in to her.
I don't trust you. As soon as I'm in the hospital, you'll take them away.
I swear to you I won't. I'm just trying to help. Please, let me help you.
Marilyn, you said in testimony that you liked your uncle. Is this offer acceptable to you?
Oh, God, I don't know. I'd have to have a restraining order. You and Mother have got to stay away.
Well, that's fine.
No, it's not. What do you think you're doing?
Something I should have done a long time ago. Dorothy, we lost our son to drugs. Marilyn's having a nervous breakdown. How long do you think I can keep turning away? How long do you think I can keep denying the truth?
Don't you say another word. I can't believe this.
Mrs. Flynn, if you leave the courtroom, you're open to a contempt citation.
It's mutual.
Your Honor.
No, don't worry. I understand. Mr. Flynn, you can resume your seat now. Thank you very much, sir. Marilyn, if this plan is acceptable to you, I'd be happy to grant your uncle custody of your daughters.
Can I trust you, Daddy? That'd be fine, Judge Franklin. I know my Uncle Jerry will take very good care of the children. Thank you.
You're very welcome. But I think your father is the one who deserves the thanks. Mr. Flynn, I know how painful it must have been for you to share the truth with us. But I hope you'll be just as candid with your wife to help her recognize that she does have a problem, not just for her sake, but for the health and the happiness of all of you. Marilyn, look at me. I believe in you. Have courage. Do whatever you have to do to find peace in your life. And know that my respect and my prayers go with you. God bless you. That's all. This court stands adjourned.